Hello, today we will be starting a series of videos discussing core concepts in Buddhism. So trying to fill in some of the gaps that have been left by my other videos, which have mostly been centered around meditation and core concepts dealing with meditation. So we're going to back off a little bit and deal with those concepts that I may have taken for granted in other videos. And some of the concepts, at least in the beginning, may seem a little bit peripheral to the main goal. We're going to start at some very fundamental concepts that may not have much to do intrinsically with meditation, but kind of set the stage and are the way that the Buddha would set the stage himself to begin to discuss the practice of meditation. So before getting into deep concepts like the Four Noble Truths, which we will get into later on in the series, we're going to begin to discuss how one who has maybe no knowledge of Buddhism or even no prior inclination towards the spiritual life might begin to cultivate spirituality and cultivate the path leading to enlightenment. So the first concept that we want to discuss today is called dana, or giving in English. And it may seem a little bit, as I said, peripheral or even extraneous to Buddhism to have to practice charity or generosity. But given that the core goal of Buddhism is that of letting go and giving up, it's actually used by the Buddha as an introduction or an entry point by which to begin to cultivate this mind state of letting go, that is the practice of giving. So for someone who is new to meditation practice, the practice of giving can be incredibly supportive to create the mind states or the inclination towards giving up. So giving in Buddhism, in that sense, is as important as it may be, is not designed with the recipient in mind or for the benefit of the recipient. The idea is to benefit the giver, benefit the donor, and therefore it's something to be done as a matter of course rather than something that one goes out of one's way to practice intentionally. But the point being that a person who is giving, a person who is inclined to give, is more likely to give up. And a person who is looking to give up will, by nature, be generous and giving. And so we're trying to cultivate this quality of mind, which is a giving, a generous state of mind, which is very much a beginning of giving up. And this is actually something that we find a lack of in places where Buddhism has come for the first time and people have begun to examine the text, because often they will jump right into the core concepts like practice of insight meditation or the deep philosophical teachings like the Four Noble Truths or dependent origination, the Eightfold Noble Path, without stepping back and actually understanding the qualities of mind and the virtues that we're trying to cultivate, and without imbibing these or internalizing these qualities. So the first one here is generosity. This is what we're focusing on. Now, the means of practicing generosity, we have to take into account three factors. The first factor is the intention of the giver. The second factor is the object being given. And the third factor is the recipient of the gift. And all three of these play an important role in determining what we mean by giving in Buddhism. So we understand that giving is important, it's a beginning to giving up. How are we going to practice it? Well, first we have to focus very much on our intentions for giving. We can't give out of fear or out of spite or out of a desire to get something back from the recipient. We have to give if we want it to benefit us and to be a support for our spiritual practice. We have to give out of an intention to better ourselves, to become better people. We have to want to bring happiness to ourselves, and we want to create harmony between ourselves and other people. We want to cultivate this wholesome state of mind. And so the intentions in giving are very important. At the moment of giving, before you're giving, when you're thinking about giving, and even after you've given, not to feel regret, remorse at having lost something, for example, having had to renounce something. So we have to cultivate these states and get into the habit of it. So generosity is something that is actually going to be important throughout our Buddhist practice. The second aspect is the aspect of the object itself, and this can be broken up into two types. There's the amisa dana, which is a physical or a material object, material gift, and the other one is a spiritual gift, dhamma dana, or some kind of spiritual or immaterial mental support. So this could be providing, giving your time to someone, or your energy, or your effort, or your knowledge, and most importantly, of course, your wisdom. So this would be teaching the Dhamma, or the meditation practice, to others. And as I said, we often see that a lack of this in Buddhist practitioners, even those who are dedicated very much to the meditation practice. They can often become quite selfish in terms of trying to support their own practice and better their own practice, and shunning the idea of sharing the meditation practice with others, or even shunning the idea of being generous or supporting others, or working to help others, even in a material form. And so again, we have to understand that this is an important aspect of our practice, the willingness to give to others. It's something that we should do as a matter of course. When people ask for our help, when people want our support, they say, "Hey, I heard you're practicing meditation. Could you show it to me?" When we say no, when we say "I'm sorry, I'm not a teacher," and we try to brush them off, or we try to run away from these sorts of responsibilities, this is a sort of clinging. It's something that is not going to support our practice. It will inhibit our practice, because it's stopping us from letting go. So giving is important on both sides. On the material, in terms of the object, on the material side, we have to be willing to give materials, share the things that we have, and on the spiritual side, to share the knowledge and wisdom that we have. Now the recipient, the third aspect, is important insofar as, first, their need. So if it's someone who is in need of your help, and their worthiness, if it's someone who is worthy of your help. So for need, we're talking about people who are maybe hungry, giving them food, or people who are in need of shelter, giving them shelter, people who need your help. And it's not so much them asking you for help, but it's actually their need. And this takes wisdom, this takes discrimination. You have to be clear whether they need it. Why is this important? Because it's important to create this positive state of mind in your own mind. If you give something to someone thinking they didn't really need it, but just because they were bugging you, then it doesn't really help your state of mind, except to get rid of the annoying person or so on. It doesn't help you to let go so much. We give to those recipients who are in need. It makes us feel confident. It makes us feel good about ourselves. These are the kinds of things that support our practice. It's like putting oil in changing the oil in your engine. It makes everything run smoother, or filling up your gas tank. All of these deep concepts, like the Four Noble Truths or something, it's like this great sports car. And the ideas of giving, things like giving and morality, which we'll talk about next, are sort of like filling up your gas tank, because they give you the power to take the car, to take the vehicle, or to follow the path. And so in order to get that, we have to give to those who are going to inspire us. We feel happy having given to them. We won't feel skeptical as to whether they're going to use it for bad purposes, like giving money to a drug addict or so on. And as far as need and as far as worth, a person who is immoral, the benefit of giving to them, of course, is far lower, because you're never going to give rise to the states of confidence and the states of joy and happiness and peace of mind that comes from giving to spiritual people, from supporting causes that are of benefit to the world, and so on. So this is just a brief overview. We could talk a lot more about giving, but basically what I want to impress is the importance and the connection in Buddhism. This is the first thing that the Buddha would talk about when he gave a sequence of teachings. It's called the Anupubikata. The first thing he would talk about, the first thing he would talk about is the practice of giving. So it's an important first step, and it's something to keep in mind throughout our practice, that if we're not a giving, a charitable, if we're not able to sacrifice our own well-being, our own desires and wants, then very difficult for us to come to let go. It's part and parcel with the ability to free ourselves from clinging and therefore suffering. So thank you for tuning in. This is the first in our video series called Buddhism 101.